everyone. I am Aaliya Khan and I am the moderator for today's discussion. I'm a researcher at the European Centre for Populism Studies. It is a think tank based in Brussels. We have gathered here to discuss the grave human rights violations in Turkey. A new development coming in has been the bipartisan coalition of 52 senators' letter to President Biden expressing their concern over the deteriorating human rights record in Turkey. The letter cites the Turkish government's recent trends towards authoritarianism, in particular the jailing of journalists that oppose the government and its military involvement in Syria and Armenia. The United States has increasingly condemned Turkey in recent years under President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. According to the Senate letter, since the failed coup against him in 2016, Erdogan cracked down on domestic opposition by systematically silencing or co-opting critical media outlets, purging independent judges and replacing them with party loyalists and jailing scores of journalists, end quote. That is how the letter describes President Erdogan's actions. So discussing the panel and the developments are our esteemed guests from India on the panel today. Mr. Qamar Agha. He is one of India's most prominent commentators on foreign policy, security and society. He's a regular contributor to the BBC, Deutsche Welle, Voice of America and several other international media outlets. He is currently working on a project of the Institute for Social Democracy to analyze the state of religious and cultural diversity in South Asia. Our other panelist is Mr. Sudheendra Kulkarni. He is an independent socio-political activist dedicated to Gandhian philosophy. He has been engaged in interfaith dialogue activities in India and abroad. He is the founder of the Forum for a New South Asia, powered by India-Pakistan-China cooperation. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. And let us begin. My first question is to both the panelists, which Mr. Kulkarni can answer first and followed by Mr. Qamar Agha's deliberations. The first question is, while President Erdogan is glorified amongst a majority of Muslim community in India, in Turkey he is notorious for committing atrocities against Turks, including practicing Muslims. What is your perception of this paradox?
Thank you, Dr. Aaliya Khan, for inviting me to participate in this important discussion. And thank you, huddled masses. Since the purpose of this discussion is to create awareness, principally amongst Indian people, about what is happening in Turkey, I would like to begin by making a clear distinction between Turkey and the ruler of Turkey. Turkey is a great nation, one of the greatest nations in the world, one of the most beautiful countries in the world. It's a bridge between the East and the West, both geographically and culturally. I've had the pleasure of visiting Turkey a few years ago, and I have great admiration for its culture, for its people, and especially for the fact that one of the greatest poets of all time, Rumi, his mausoleum is in Turkey. And I must add here that India-Turkey relations historically have been very deep. During the First World War, Britain's occupation of Turkey was very strongly condemned by Mahatma Gandhi. So we wish the people of Turkey well, we admire them for their achievements, and we wish them to progress even more. However, it is extremely unfortunate that Turkey is now under what can only be called a dictatorship. Human rights violations, assaults on democratic rights are taking place on a scale that is truly alarming. Unfortunately, in India, there is not much awareness. And the other unfortunate aspect is that a section of the Muslim community in India is influenced by the persona of Erdogan. He is seen as some kind of a protector of Muslims worldwide, which is really paradoxical, because they don't see the dark side of his role. They only see a certain propaganda that he is now standing up for the so-called rights and the prestige of the Muslim community worldwide. This is happening because the Muslim world itself is in a kind of a flux. For a fairly long time, a section of Indian Muslim community was looking up to Saudi Arabia, but Saudi Arabia is now gone down in the estimation of Indian Muslims. And now, for a time, it was Mahathir of Malaysia, but even he has receded into the background. Erdogan has taken that place. It's paradoxical because the largest number of Muslims in the world are in South Asia: India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. With the combined population is nearly 600 million, much more than the Arab Muslim population, and of course far greater than the population of Turkey itself. So the lesson is that the South Asian Muslims, Indian Muslims, especially the Indian Muslim elite, needs to get rooted in our own secular civilization and not look to some outside force for inspiration and leadership.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kulkarni. Mr. Qamar Agha, if you would like.
I fully support what Mr. Kulkarni has said just now. It's a major crisis Muslim Ummah is facing at the moment. The problem is we don't have a great leader, political leader or spiritual leader, And the one who was trying to emerge as a spiritual leader of the Muslim Ummah, his activities have been curbed in Turkey. And Turkey is a great nation, there's no doubt about it, and we have historical ties, as he mentioned, and we always wish to have good relations with Turkey, but unfortunate, the current leadership in Turkey has chosen the other way, other path, and he is not only suppressing the local people or domestic opposition, but also, aligning himself with the very dictatorial regimes in and around or at the global level, like China, Pakistan, and so on and so forth. So that is another problem. As far as he has been also, he thinks, there is a vacuum and in the Muslim leadership, and he thinks that he can fill that vacuum. He's trying. He's spending a lot of money, buying influencers, buying people, leaders, or jamaats, in different countries, funding them and trying to, win over their support. But still, he could manage to get some support in a among the educated Muslims, because ever since he started championing Palestine, cause of Palestine, that is very dear to Muslim Ummah. The Muslim leaders have abandoned Palestine, but among the Muslim community, it remains one of the most important unresolved question. They still believe, support the Palestinian issue. And then, other issues of Muslim, he started. The problem is, the Arab League, then the Islamic Conference Organization, all these bodies are divided, and they don't have much support among public. These are the organization, these are basically a club of non-elected leaders, self-proclaimed Muslim leaders of the Muslim communities. So these organizations, people have lost faith in these organizations in the respective countries. They were looking for some leader. I think it is a very short term, because he debate is going on even within the Muslim community in India, okay, that there are people who are critical of him. They see, okay, that he is suppressing the Islamic leaders within his own countries. Then he is also promoting uh, uh, suppressing democracy, rule of law. And in Indian Muslim, democracy is very deep rooted. We have a democracy, we have rule of law, and diversity also, religious and cultural diversity. So we know the importance of democracy. And here is a person, who's talking about himself, promoting his own values, issuing certain statements. That's all. And secondly, he has also created a mess in the region. His policies in Syria has failed. His policy, I mean, his frequent bombing in northern Iraq, Kurdish-dominated areas, Then his support to Azerbaijan in the recent conflict in which Azerbaijan tried to settle dispute through violence or through military means, plus his latest standoff with Greece. These are the things, some of the things, which are highly debatable, within the community also. Unfortunately, we don't have a very good Urdu media. There are some newspapers which have reported, supported him, and there are others who are critical, of certain policies. I think it is still early to say that he would emerge a Muslim leader, because I don't. Arab, he is not acceptable to the Arab countries. A Muslim leader has to be acceptable to both the Arab, Central Asian, North African, as well as South Asian region. This is a South Asian, and Central Asia is a very big block of Muslims. So therefore, I believe, uh, that's his dream, and still time to. I mean, I don't think he'll be able. He will manage to emerge a pan-Islamic leader in the years to come. He has too many problems at home. His economy is in shambles, and unemployment is growing, and on top of that, the COVID is there. So all sorts of problems he is facing inside the country, and has unable to solve these
Mhm.
uh, problems.
Yeah, that brings us to the very important topic of Turkish government's propaganda uh, that they spread through social media across Muslim societies, and it's very prominent in India as well. How do you see it unraveling in India, and what aspects of it do you find problematic for India and its large Muslim population? Mr. Kulkarni, if you could go first.
We must accept the reality that the Turkish government's propaganda is having an influence on a section of Muslim society. And as Qamar Agha Saab rightly mentioned, the Indian press in general and Urdu press in particular have not been highlighting the reality of Turkey and the extreme suppression of democratic rights, of uh, any tolerant expression of Islam itself in Turkey. The fact that there are tens of thousands of followers of Fethullah Gulen, he is truly in one of the conscious keepers of humanity today, a moral conscience keeper of humanity today, but there is not much awareness about him, his activities, his philosophy in India. Whereas, because of a very strong and well-funded propaganda, a section of the Muslim community has been influenced. It is problematic, to answer your question. It is problematic for two reasons. One is that in India, unfortunately, in recent years, there has Muslim community itself is a victim of an assault on their democratic rights, an assault on their dignity, on security. All the constitutional rights and freedoms given to the Muslim community are under threat, whereas the same Muslim community which is concerned about its condition situation in India is somehow keeping a blind eye towards suppression of democratic rights in Turkey. So this is problematic, number one. The second aspect is that much of the propaganda from Turkey is also focused on the condition in Kashmir. Of course, as an Indian, it pains me to say that there are very serious human rights violations in Kashmir. Kashmir is in turmoil for a long, long time. It is the moral constitutional duty of Indian people to ensure that the people of Kashmir live in peace and with dignity and with justice. However, the propaganda is somehow one-sided. The Kashmir issue has two sides to it. There is, of course, a problem from the Indian side, but there is also a problem from the Pakistani side. Now, somehow there is a propaganda in Kashmir and in Muslim community worldwide, the propaganda from Turkey, which seems to suggest that the solution to the Kashmir problem is if Kashmir becomes a part of Pakistan. Kashmir banega Pakistan. Now, this is not going to happen. Similarly, India is never going to be able to take that side of Kashmir, which is with Pakistan. The only humane, realistic solution is for India and Pakistan to sit together and solve this problem in a manner that is acceptable to India, Pakistan, and the Kashmiri people themselves. But this is not how the Turkish propaganda projects it. The Kashmiri people and many Muslims think that Erdogan is speaking for us, which is not true. So on both cases, it is problematic. And this problematic propaganda must be countered.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Kulkarni, Mr. Qamar Agha.
Turkey and Pakistan has an old ties. They have been together even during the Cold War, under the British-backed Centro Alliance. They were part of the Centro Alliance, and after at that time, when secular Turkey was also supporting Pakistan against India. And then after that, we have in between, we have a good ties started improving with Turkey. But unfortunately, Erdogan, when he came to power, he took his complete power over it, suppressed all opposition, again went back and he started supporting Pakistan, championing Kashmir, Pakistan. So that is not, is a very not welcome by the large majority of Indian people. As Mr. Kulkarni has mentioned, that in India we want good ties with Turkey, but unfortunately the leadership is the problem. And his desire to emerge as a Muslim leader at the expense of Kashmir or Palestine or other things, that is not going to work, I believe. It's a passing phenomena. It's a time, there is a problem in the Islamic world at the moment. There are no leaders, but I'm sure, Muslim will not elect him as their leader in coming days.
Thank you, Mr. Qamar Agha. It is worth mentioning that despite a lot of pro-Erdogan propaganda in India, both of you have remained sympathetic to the Hizmet movement, against which the Turkish government has launched a massive crackdown not only in Turkey but across the world, including in India. As Indians, what do you find admirable about this movement? Mr. Kulkarni, if you could answer.
As I mentioned earlier, Fethullah Gulen began to impress me ever since I came to know him in 2008. And he came across, and he still continues to come across, as a keeper of the moral conscience of humanity. In 2008, I wrote an article in the Times of India in which I said that here is an Islamic voice of reason and reform in America, a Muslim leader, a great scholar, who says that as a Muslim, I accept all religions and all prophets, including Hindu prophets. Now that really, as I know, I'm a pious Hindu, and it really appealed to me. And he also raised a very bold voice against misuse of Islam for extremism and terrorism, especially by taking the name of Osama bin Laden, saying that he is not a representative of Muslims and Islam. I wrote this article, and a few years ago, 3 years ago, I had an opportunity to visit the United States, and I made it a point to go and pay my respects to this great teacher of mankind, Hoja Effendi. He's a teacher of mankind, and I was so impressed by his simplicity, his piousness, and uh, by that time I had also come to know about the Hizmet movement. The very name Hizmet is so evocative. It means service of humanity. And when I came back, I wrote an article. I said that here is a Gandhian proponent of jihad in America. I specifically mentioned that it's a Gandhian jihad. It's a non-violent jihad, as against the violent jihad as some misguided people are propagating and practicing. Under his influence, tens of thousands of people have taken to serving humanity, and they are doing such a broad range of activities. The Writers and Journalists Union on the one hand, people engaged in disaster relief, people engaged in educational activities, and I have seen Hizmet schools in Mumbai and rest of India. They were doing excellent work, such dedicated people and educators. And Gulen's own philosophy of education is extremely enlightening. So all this made an impression on me. And when I met him, it was the beginning of the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. So I requested Hoja Effendi Fethullah Gulen for a message on Mahatma Gandhi, and he sent such a beautiful message praising Mahatma Gandhi and his philosophy of non-violence. And in his message, he said that he prays for harmony between Hindus and Muslims in India, and he also prays for peace and harmony between India and Pakistan. Now, this is absolutely the right kind of message that the people of India, whether Hindus or Muslims or any other religion, and the people in Pakistan need. And I believe, therefore, that it is our duty. I'm not a Muslim, but I'm a great admirer of Islam, the Prophet of Islam, and the teachers of Islam in today's context, such as Fethullah Gulen. And I consider myself as a person who has a duty to propagate the philosophy of Fethullah Gulen and the activities of Hizmet movement.
Thank you, Mr. Kulkarni. Mr. Qamar Agha, if you could answer.
Yeah, I have been, associated with the movement for a very long period of time, more than 2 decades, and I have got chance to visit Turkey and some other places, and I have honor of meeting with Hoja Effendi in America. I'm greatly impressed, for a number of reasons. One, his attempt to enlighten Muslim community, to trigger an enlightenment movement within the Muslim community. That is something important. He realized that the deficit is education. This is the first and most important. The biggest jihad is to educate Muslims, and he opened hundreds of his school all over the world, where not only Muslim but other communities also come and study and live together or work together. So that impressed me greatly, because I realized the same problem Muslims are facing in this country also, because we lag behind education. We need modern education. We need quality education. And when I look at the Muslim institution or Muslim schools in India, they are in bad shape. They fail to provide quality education, at least. Then second thing, his emphasis was on health. To open hospitals, higher education learning, universities, colleges, technical colleges, medical colleges in Turkey and other countries of Central Asia, particularly. And unfortunately, most of them were now closed down in Turkey, by the leader. So he is a great reformer. He is a person, who has a lot of concern for the Muslim community as well. He thinks they're left behind. So therefore, special attention should be made. Third important point, he believes that all the whatever the disputes are within the Muslim community should be settled through peaceful negotiations. Through negotiation, he's totally opposed to war. As Mr. Kulkarni has mentioned, for us, Gandhi was a great leader, and we have great admiration for Gandhi. We believe in his ideology. So if any Muslim comes up and talks about non-violence, talk about settlement of dispute through negotiation, or all these things, he went and met the Jewish leader. He met with the Pope John Paul for these reasons, to bring religious communities, Muslim, Christian, Jews, or Hindus in India together, through dialogue and discussion. His concept of dialogue is another very important aspect, that we should have a frequent dialogue with interfaith dialogue and with other communities, about from other issues also. We should continue the debate should go on, because we are not debating, we are fighting, we're taking up. And then his concept of jihad is different from the concept of jihad which was promoted by the militant Islamic movement, which is un-Islamic, he believes, and we also believe in India that is un-Islamic, that is anti-human, unhuman practices, were committed in the name of Islam. So therefore, I have a great admiration for him, and I believe, under his leadership, if Muslims look towards him and follow him, a lot of problem could be solved, and India could, global Muslim community would progress, and that is the only. There is no shortcut. His road to progress, which he described, I think is an excellent example. I'm greatly impressed with him.
Thank you, Mr. Qamar Agha. I think it is notable that you two are amongst the the only few from India who have had the chance to meet Mr. Fethullah Gulen. Thank you so much. Moving on to our next question. As you are aware, hundreds of thousands of Hizmet volunteers, both male and female, including pregnant women and infants, have suffered during the past 6 years at the hands of President Erdogan. Is there anything you would like to say to them? Mr. Kulkarni, go first.
First of all, I really salute the spirit and the determination of Hizmet volunteers, both in Turkey and worldwide, because under extremely difficult conditions, they have held on, they have not given up. And as you mentioned, in Turkey itself, they have suffered a lot. Their relatives have suffered a lot. And therefore, it is the responsibility of people who love justice, who love humanity, who, to raise their voice in solidarity and support for Hizmet volunteers. Martin Luther King has rightly said that injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. It must be said loud and clear that the problems of Turkey cannot be solved through dictatorship. They can only be solved through democracy. They cannot be solved through extremism. They can only be solved through tolerance. What is Fethullah Gulen is propagating. Fortunately, there are some good developments taking place in the world now. The recent election of Joe Biden as the President of the United States gives a certain hope for a change in America's attitude towards the happenings in Turkey. And as the largest and in some ways, most powerful country in the world, the United States, President Biden himself, should stand in support for the fighters for democracy in Turkey. But beyond United States, it is also the responsibility of other countries. And as a largest democracy in the world, it is a responsibility of India. Of course, the Indian government has been somewhat sympathetic. There has absolutely been no persecution under Erdogan's pressure, persecution, harassment of Hizmet volunteers in India, but the Indian government needs to do more. So I believe that both the government of India, the political establishment in India, the religious establishment in India, and the common people and the media in India should speak out more and more in support of the Hizmet volunteers and in support of this extremely, as Qamar Agha Sahab said, enlightened voice of Islam.
Thank you, Mr. Kulkarni. Mr. Qamar Agha, if you could answer this, please.
Yeah, we have a sympathy, for all those people who have been arrested or put behind the bar. Number is too big, 21st century, I can never imagine, in Turkey, over 150,000 people are sent to jail. School colleges were closed down, and educated people are suffering. That is, these were the people, they were the educators who were giving education to the masses. Where the Turkish government has failed to provide. These are the people are now in jail in Turkey. That is very unfortunate and should be condemned. Not only that, as Mr. Kulkarni said, that it is our responsibility, it is our duty, to highlight the plight of these people, take up this issue at various forums in India and wherever we get a chance abroad, should highlight, we should, I think it is true that some change might come, because Biden has taken a very firm stand. Secondly, now the letter is written by the Senate of 52 senators, signed the letter and asked the president to step up campaign against him, or put pressure on him, so that democracy could be restored in Turkey. These are very positive development. I am hopeful also, that in time to come, Turkey would come under more pressure. But as far as our concern is, as far as we are concerned, we as an individual or as a lead, we have a duty also to raise this voice in India. We should also talk to cross section of Indian society and Indian political elite, to put pressure on, build up, cause for Turkish people and expose the nefarious designs, of Erdogan, which he is promoting or which he is taking up in Turkey and elsewhere, and his treatment towards the Hizmet, to the volunteers of Hizmet movement here. That is very important. And in a little way, whatever little possible, we are doing it. But time has come that we should mobilize more people for this cause. And I'm sure, we, together with the Hizmet volunteers and like-minded people in India, we could, take up the case. India, we have a history, we have taken up the cases of other countries, human rights violation, whether it is Palestine or whether it is many other countries, So this is an important cause, which deserves support from Indian people.
Thank you, Mr. Qamar Agha and Mr. Sudheendra Kulkarni for joining us today, and everybody else who joined in to listen in on this fruitful discussion today. It is through your support and your encouragement that the Hizmet movement has been able to go from strength to strength despite serious blows and setbacks. Please continue to join us and support us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.